with opportunities for conducting hands-on activities, often accompanied by some pre or post read to help you to go into further depth. And we hope that this will kindle your interest to explore further. So webinar number 44 is on cryptography, concepts and applications. We will soon have a series of 3 webinars, number 45 to 47, by Mr. Swapnil Patnikar from Shrestha IT, Belgavi. These webinars are scheduled for 20th November, 1st December, and 5th of December, and they'll be on the topic of network security. So we hope to share the materials and the link for registration for these seminars, hopefully by tomorrow with all of you. Now, in order to access the previous webinars on the CySecK website as well as on our YouTube channel, please go to the link that is displayed here on the screen. And I'd request all of you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It will help you get to know whenever we have exciting new seminar recordings, whenever they get published. And it will also help us to get better traction and to get better visibility. So this is the scheme of webinar and the assessment. This webinar will be followed by an assessment. So the assessment is basically 15 multiple choice questions, of which each question has 4 options. There are no negative marking. You get 1 point for a correct answer. The link to the assessment will be provided at the end of the webinar. The assessment will be kept open for 60 minutes. The assessment questions will be followed by webinar feedback. You need to have a Gmail ID to take the assessment, if that is on Google Forms. And please use the same email or ID that you have used log into this webinar, if preferable, Gmail one, if you have done so. Those who get 5 or more marks out of 50 will be provided a certificate of achievement. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed speaker today, who will be delivering the talk on the topic of cryptography. Professor Srinivas Vivek, he holds a bachelor's degree in information technology, which he obtained from the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, which is located in Surathkal. Then he went on to do his MSc Engineering by research in computer science at the prestigious Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, and then completed his PhD in cryptography under the supervision of Professor Jean-Sébastien Coron and Professor David Galindo at the University of Luxembourg in 2015. His MSc thesis at IISc was guided by Professor C.E. Veni Madhavan. Thereafter, he worked as a research associate at the Cryptography Group at the University of Bristol under the supervision of Professor Nigel Smart. Since January 2018, he's an assistant professor at International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore, commonly known as IIIT-B, where he also Resources Foundation Career Development Chair Professorship and is a DST Inspire Faculty Fellow. He has served as a member of the editorial board of IACR transactions on CHES, WANC, Asian Host, and IndoCrypt. He is also a recipient, as I mentioned earlier, of the DST Inspire Faculty Award from the Government of India. And his research is detection of countermeasures against channel attacks and homomorphic encryption schemes and their applications. Professor Vivek, it is indeed a pleasure to have you with us, and we thank you for sparing your time to deliver this extremely interesting introductory level webinar on the topic of cryptography, concepts and applications. Sir, I will now hand it over to you to share your presentation.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, probably I think someone needs to mute, I guess. This cross-talking.
I'm just taking that.
Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Abhishek Vijay Gopal and Mr. Karthik Bapanad for the kind invitation. I'm very happy to be present here and talk about crypto and briefly about its applications too. Right. So I just check so I have about totally it should stop around 5 o'clock, right? By 5 o'clock. Abhishek? So I should stop by 5, or you suggested I stop a bit early and then take up questions, or is it
Maybe
okay?
start 10 minutes earlier and maybe you can take up some questions. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. So before that, is it possible to take questions from the chat? Maybe I'll just also try to monitor the chat window. So if the question is relevant at that point, maybe I'll try to answer that.
Sure, sir. As per your convenience, no issues.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Let me share my screen. Can just someone confirm if my screen is visible?
So you
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Okay, good. And also, I should confess that unfortunately, my internet is down at my place, and then but I'm using the 4G connection, so there might be a lag here. So please bear with me.
We request everybody to mute, please. Please do not interrupt the professor when he's talking. In case of any questions, please type it in the chat box. Yes, sir. Please can.
Okay, thanks then. So again, welcome again. So let me first talk about like what is information security and then explain you cryptography. I think probably everyone should be muted, I guess.
Just a second.
Yeah. Probably I think you would have a setting where you can just say mute all. Possibly, I think.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Okay, great. Thanks. So what is information security? So just to give you some an informal definition, I mean it's quite difficult to formally define it, but then so just intuitively, it's the study of techniques to prevent unauthorized access or use of information. Okay, so you see in the picture, right? Internet, and it's connected to many devices. Now, IoT is so important, right? Internet of Things. So and I'm sure that so you all appreciate the need for information security in this digital age, right? I need not further elaborate on that. So the basic goals of information security is to achieve what is called confidentiality, authentication, data integrity, and non-repudiation. Right? So what is confidentiality? So it's basically, you should prevent unauthorized access to some information. Okay. So those who are not uh, authorized to view some message should not be able to view it. Okay, you send a message to a recipient, right? So only the recipient should be able to view the contents of the message. Not no man in the middle should be able to view it. Okay, so this is confidentiality. So authentication means that it can be two types, right? Message origin authentication and data origin entity origin authentication, right? So you should know the where the message has come from, right? So it should not happen that someone encrypted the message in the middle and sent it to you, okay? And you think that the message came from the original sender, though it would have been modified in the transfer, right? Yeah, I think still some crosstalks are going on. Okay. So I told you, right? So data origin and entity authentication and message origin authentication. So these are two important things. And then data integrity. So means you should be sure or reasonably convinced that the data has arrived at you as it was sent from by the sender. So you might be aware of many network layer protocols for error correction, error detection, making use of this, right? But then it's not enough. So here we are in the adversarial setting. At the application layer, the adversary could be modifying your messages. So you should be sure, right, that your message, has arrived as it was sent, or if not, if that was not the case, then you will be able to detect any manipulation, right? So this is data integrity. So non-repudiation, probably less known but still quite intuitive, is that you should, it's the prevention of denial of previous commitments. Okay, means suppose you say that you are attending an online auction. Okay, you say you are going to promise that you are going to pay something, right? Or you're, for example, you could be using the Amazon services, and you say that you promise that you are going to send money later, right, for whatever you buy. So you should not be able to deny the fact that you did that. So information security technique should ensure that if you have committed to something, then it's you can try to verify that fact later on, right? You will not be able to go back on your words, right? So these are the basic goals, and there are of course many other objectives, but these are predominantly the fundamental objectives of information security. So here, what is cryptography? So it's basically, it provides mathematical foundations and techniques to realize the above goals of information security. So it provides, so crypto is a part of information security. Okay, there are many ways to achieve information security without in fact using crypto. For instance, your bank notes, currency notes, right? So so you are also sure that if someone gives you a note, so you have a means to detect whether it's really from the RBI or it's a fake, right? So in a sense, it's providing your currency notes is providing information security. But then it doesn't use crypto, right? It uses special inks, special the papers, so on, right? So but in the digital age, as you're all aware, crypto is a crucial component. It's an essential. So you will not be able to achieve information security without crypto in the digital world, right? So crypto has quite an interesting history. So it's been used since the Roman times. You would all, I don't know if you probably would have heard of the Caesar cipher, right? And then it also had some quite a significant outcome in the world wars, right? Particularly the World War II. So where the Alan Turing and his colleagues at Bletchley Park in Cambridge, they broke the German cipher Enigma. You see the picture of the German cipher, right, and on the slides. Good. So what are the core problems, traditional problems in cryptography? So first problem is the problem of key establishment. Okay, suppose you have two parties, say Rama and Sita in the modern age, right? And they are digitally connected, right? So they want to talk. So Rama wants to talk to Sita, right? And then they share a key. Okay, now they need a key, right, to encrypt the data. But there's an adversary, right? Ravana in the middle, right? No, it's digital Ravana, right? So they need to talk, okay? But then how do they share a common key, okay? Without ever meeting, right? So particularly for sharing the key, right? So this is the key establishment, and you can realize, right? In the modern world, there are billions, tens or hundreds of billions of IoT devices. So you cannot establish a secret offline channel for every device to exchange a key, right? That's simply not going to happen, right? And so how do you establish a common key over a public channel, which the adversary could control, right? So key establishment is a fundamental problem in crypto. So then cryptographers, they were looking at, okay, fine. So once you establish the key, right? So another problem would be, how do you securely communicate using that key? So Rama and Sita, they exchange messages M1, M2, M3. Okay, let's call them M1, M2, M3. And then how can you be sure that confidentiality? I told you, right? Ravana should not be able to inspect the actual message. And then and he should not be able to tamper with the messages. Even if he tampers, you should be able to detect it, right? So these are the core and these problems have been quite well solved, right? So there are pretty efficient protocols that are already widely deployed, right? So in fact, we are securely talking because of these two problems have been solved thanks to crypto, right? But remember, today's crypto is much more than solving these fundamental problems. So there are like very sophisticated tools and techniques that can solve like a, like a lot more problems than just these two. So let's look at now. We're supposed to talk about applications of crypto, right? Let's look some advanced applications. Okay, so then we will come back to the more basic applications. So one of those like advanced crypto techniques is what is called multi-party computation or secure multi-party computation. So here the problem is very simple. So there are say 4 parties you see in the picture, right? So they want to they want to compute. So they want to compute a joint function, right? So say x1, x2, x3, x4. It could be as simple as for instance, in an organization, this could be employees, and they are curious to find the average salary or the sum of the total salaries. Okay, so what's big problem, right? So this is not a problem at all. So if you have a trusted uh, a genie here, right? So if you trust this genie, then everyone is going to send. It could be the boss, right? They could send his or her input to the trusted third party, right? Then that's going to compute. So what's big deal there? But the whole magic about this is uh, how to simulate this computation of a joint function without actually having a trusted third party. So it's quite difficult to get a trusted server, right? So why two people say two countries? Oh, which country they are going to trust? They don't want to trust any other country, right? So so this MPC technique. So basically, is, I told you, right? It provides a platform to compute for everyone to compute their a joint function without actually revealing anything other than their input and output. Okay, right? So yeah, and this can have like tremendous implications in practice. For instance, you can do machine learning, privacy preserving machine learning, right? Because people want to share, you need a lot of data to do machine learning, but then this data could be sensitive. Suppose you want to find a nice medicine to solve a cure a disease, right? But you need a lot of data to do, say, apply all these techniques, ML techniques, to discover a new effective medicine or cost-effective medicine. But then, why would anyone share their personal data? Because it could be potentially misused, right? But then, oops, yeah, I think people, yeah, everyone. Okay, so looks better.
Please continue.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So then I cannot just give out my reports just like that, right? So if I could use these techniques where I can do some some magic, and then I'll be able to you know give out the data securely, right? And then those who want to learn more about this data, do some analysis, they will be able to do something on it. Okay, and they will learn their output, but they won't learn anything more. So this is something very nice, and it can have like applications in e-auctions, many other scenarios. So another relative primitive, which also has applications in cloud security, is what is called homophic encryption. So these are like special type of encryption schemes where you can actually do some calculations on encrypted data. So as you would know, if you have seen some basic crypto before, if you don't know the key, then ciphertext just looks like some arbitrary gibberish string. So it doesn't it makes any sense. You cannot do anything with that. But these type of special encryption schemes called homophic encryption schemes or fully homophic encryption schemes, they allow you to do some meaningful manipulation on the encrypted data. For instance, suppose you have encryption of 1 and 1, right? So if you see a red square, it means it's encrypted. So without, in fact, decrypting, adding and re-encrypting, without doing any of these things, just to ciphertext, a server on the cloud will be able to add it, okay, to get an encryption of 2. So similarly, it will be able to multiply 1 and 1 to get encryption of 2 without decrypting, right? So that means if you are able to do addition and multiplication, you will be able to compute any function on the encrypted data. So for instance, your data on your Gmail servers could be completely encrypted, right? And then Google does its business by giving you ads related to your mails, right? But then it's reading the data. But why do you really trust Google? So you want to use its service, but you don't want to fully trust, Google, because a lot of private information is at stake. So what you do is you encrypt the data. Now the Google will be able to perform search on the encrypted data, right? But it will only be able to give you the results in the encrypted form, and only you decrypt and you get the results. So it's the best of both the worlds, right? You outsource the data, you use the services of Google, but you will not be able to, the Google will not be able to read your data, yet it will be able to offer service, right? So this is really cool, but things are not as easy as as it said, because because working on encrypted ciphertext is like 1,000 to million times slower. So that's why you don't see Google still encrypting all your data, right? So, but then this is an extremely promising area of research that can have like a lot of implications for cloud security, right? So, and this can also have like uses similar to multi-party computation. So only difference is multi-party computation does not encrypt the data; it sort of secret shares its data. But here, I mean, that's a loose statement, but still, it's not multi-party computation is not a special kind of encryption scheme, but homophic encryption is indeed a special type of encryption scheme. So this is all what you need to remember, right? But it also turns out that it's not just enough to uh, just design a cryptographic algorithm and then just analyze its security. It turns out that we need to implement it efficiently and securely, right? So because you want it to be fast, you don't want to wait in front of an ATM for several minutes to get your cash, right? So remember, your cards are also use crypto. Your PIN is encrypted. If it's not encrypted, then anyone with the card reader will be able to decrypt, right? So crypto is there everywhere. So, and also it turns out that it's not enough to efficiently implement it; should be secure. So this cartoon, what you see, just humorously denotes uh, an adversary that's listening to an execution. So what is it? What does this listening mean? So it simply means that it will be able to observe the amount of time your execution takes, right? So it could be a server, answer question response session over on a server. When you send your data, when you get your answer. So it will be able to measure the time, and it will be able to, if you lose your bank card, an adversary will be able to measure the amount of power it consumes, right? Uh, so and so all these things, information can be in fact used to break the secret key. So even otherwise, they could be, your cryptographic algorithm can be very secure. But if you get to these what are called side channel leakages, it's called side channel leakage because it's not an intended leakage, right? Unlike a ciphertext is a sort of intended leakage, but these are our unintended leakages. So these are what are called side channel attacks. So if adversary can do all these things, then it can just recover the secret key, right? So you need not solve big mathematical problems to uh, uh, break the crypto. You just need to do these things. And in fact, it has been observed in practice that you can observe the cache access pattern or electromagnetic emissions and do so on, and you can get the secret key. So it's so be very careful about this. So here you see the setup. That say you implement your crypto on what is called a microcontroller. So say an IoT object device. So you'll be able to just measure the power consumption using an oscilloscope. You see the wave on the monitor, right? That's an oscilloscope, and then you can just recover the secret key, right? So yeah, so quite serious attacks. So as I said, crypto is just a part of information security. You see the bigger picture, the bigger triangle. So let me annotate laser pointer. Okay. So you see the triangle is the bigger picture, right? It's the domain of information security. You have crypto. I told you that, and crypto has a lot of primitives, and then you need crypto engineering securely implement crypto, and then crypto also has links to politics, law, economics, social science. Law is important because it should be illegal to beat your friend up and then extract the secret decryption key, right? If it was perfectly legal, then no crypto is going to help. So you still need the protection of the law, right? If even crypto and information security has to work, right? Economics, right? You want your, you can use large key sizes to make your crypto very secure, but it will be very expensive. So hence there's economical factor also. Politics, so government and then corporate, they're always in some tussle, right? So corporate world, they claim to provide privacy, right? End to end user privacy using encryption. But then what if antisocial elements get hold of these technologies, of course, right? And or misuse these technologies to secretly communicate and mount a terror attack. So there should be some sort of accountability and some transparency, right? For policing, right? So to prevent all these crimes. But then again, so then you get interaction, social science, right? So there are a lot of behavioral patterns that's usually exploited to attack, phishing attack. So social sciences, also intersect. So information security is really truly interdisciplinary, I would say. Good. So that's about some sophisticated crypto primitives. Now let's look at more basic applications of crypto, right? As HTTPS, hypertext transfer protocol, secure, right? So they use what is called the transport layer security, previously called the secure socket layer, right? SSL. So they use what are called this key exchange scheme I mentioned, right? The core problem one, and authentication schemes like DHE, RSA, or they use stream ciphers. So if you have not heard of these things, don't worry. I'm going to talk about briefly about these things. So they use a stream cipher, a symmetric key cipher, and a block cipher called AES or Camellia and Camellia. Stream ciphers, Chacha 20 or right. So yeah, and then bitcoins, right? So nowadays public getting they equate crypto with cryptocurrency, right? It's cryptocurrency is just one aspect, one tiny speck of crypto, right? But it's very popular, right? Bitcoin. So it uses collision resistant hash function called SHA-256, and then an authentication algorithm, right? Digital signature algorithm called ECDSA, right? And many other primitives. Or it also uses a signature scheme, bulletproof, so zero knowledge proof, right? So and then Zoom and possibly I don't know about WebEx, but Zoom uses TLS, and then it uses AES, right? And of course, smart card, IoT devices, so crypto is everywhere, right? So that's where, and then so let me give you a talk very briefly about that how crypto is used in transport layer security protocol. So in TLS 1.3, this is how it happens. Client client and server, they want to communicate with each other securely, right? So client would say hello, and then it would generate a key, right? It would initiate the key generation algorithm, and then the server will say hello, and then they use this key establishment protocol to arrive at a secret key, and then they encrypt their contents, and these things, should be verified, signed. I won't get into details, but so what I just want to say is TLS uses quite amount of crypto, right? Good. So if you want to know more, a very nice introduction to more formal introduction to crypto would be Introduction to Modern Cryptography by Jonathan Katz and Yehuda Lindell, right? So there are, of course, a very popular book on crypto network security is by William Stallings. You all would know that. And there are other books also. So one of my supervisors also has written a nice book on cryptography made simple by Professor Nigel Smart. Great. And then there are a lot of good online courses on Coursera by Professor Dan Bonnet from Stanford, Jonathan Katz, one of the authors of the book I just mentioned. And also there's a very nice uh, NPTEL video of SPY, probably would have heard it. Course called Foundations of Cryptography by my colleague from IIIT-B, Professor Ashish Chaudhary. So you also learn good knowledge. You can do that course. I should forward it to you. Good. And then crypto engineering also, there are a couple of books, and then there are conferences for that. So probably now it may not be needed for you if you are just starting, right? So that's about like very quickly about what is crypto, information security, and then applications. So now I'll start right away. I hope you are convinced that crypto is important. So now I'll very briefly start talking about symmetric key crypto and public key crypto. So let me check if there are any questions. Okay, so good question. Availability is a part of basic goals of crypto. I'm not sure, right? But that's all could be also an important, one of the important goals of crypto. But it may not even strictly fall into the realm of crypto also, right? Then let me, if there are questions, examples on what that we can perform the operation, on what we can perform the operating encryption. Oh, like I told you, right? Many examples. Your an encrypted email search, right? That's a class one of the examples. So I think any other questions on encrypted? Nothing on. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. So let me continue. Okay, so symmetric crypto. What is CIA in crypto? CIA. Okay, Muhammad Shami is asking what is CIA. I don't know. I'm not heard of this abbreviation. Okay, so first let's talk about encryption. That provides confidentiality. So an encryption scheme. So an encryption scheme consists of three algorithms. So one, you should generate a key, right? And then you encrypt and decrypt. So what is key generation? So it produces key for encrypting plain text and decrypting ciphertext. In symmetric key crypto, it is it's the same secret key is used for both encryption and decryption. Okay, but in public key crypto, okay, we'll talk about that public key crypto later, right? Uh, no, a different key is used for encryption and decryption. Okay, so then, so someone is asking what is the difference between public and secret key. I told you, right, and I'll come to that when I talk about public key crypto. So basically, in public key crypto, one of the keys is public, and then of course the other key should be private. But in symmetric key crypto, both the keys are private. Okay, so the three core principles. Okay. Okay, let me open the question. Confidential availability. Okay, possibly. There are many ways. Many people categorize these things quite differently. So there's no universally accepted thing, right? So if you want to include availability as one of the core principles, then it's absolutely fine, right? But it may not be, because encryption, at least the basic crypto, they ensure confidentiality, integrity, right? Availability, I see it's quite debatable, So yeah, of course, you should have a lot of resources. Oh yeah, maybe in the sense that instead of preventing, denial of service attacks, possibly. Okay, you could include that. So yeah, it would not be incorrect. Yeah. Great. I hope that answers the question. Right. So good. Fine. Okay. So sorry again. So I talked about key generation, then encryption on input. So encryption is a process of transferring a plain text to what is called a ciphertext. Of course, for symmetric encryption, you also input apart from the message, the plain text, right? You also input a secret encryption key. Okay, and then it produces this ciphertext. And what does decryption does is the reverse of it. So you given a ciphertext and a decryption key, corresponding decryption key. In the case of symmetric encryption, it's the same key, but for public key encryption, it should be the corresponding. If you have encrypted with respect to someone, say X public key, then you should input X secret key, no one else secret key, right? Then you get back the corresponding plain text. And there are some basic properties that should be satisfied, like correctness, efficiency, and security. Means you encrypt and decrypt. So you encrypt, decrypt, you should be get back the message, right? If you lose the message, then you will be in problem. And they should be efficient if you know the key. And it should be secure in the sense that if the adversary does not have the key, then it should not be able to recover the message, right? So these properties are very important. So this diagram illustrates, right? Suppose you have a sender and a recipient. Sender wants to send a message to the recipient. So it takes the plain text, inputs the key and produces this ciphertext, right? And then this is sent over a public channel, which adversary could control. So, and then at the recipient end, the decryption key should be input, and then it recovers the plain text. Okay. So this is what is pictorially a symmetric key encryption scheme. Any doubts? Good. So one of the more extremely simple cryptographic primitive what you can look at is what is called OTP. Okay, it's not one-time pass. What is called one-time pad or the Shannon cipher. So what it simply does is as follows. So you choose, suppose your message is represented as an n-bit string. Okay, bit string is contains of 0, 1, right? And your key should also be of equal length. Okay, and then how do you compute the ciphertext from the message? It's very easy, right? So basically, so you XOR. So what is this XOR? Suppose you have a bit, okay, a 1-bit message and 1-bit key. So XOR operation simply does is the same things become 0, different things become 1. So 0, 0, 0 XOR 0 is 0, and 1 XOR 1 is 0, but 0 XOR 1 is 1, and 1 XOR 0 is 1. Okay, and you do it if a message is more than 1 bit long, so then you do it, you do bitwise XOR for each of the thing, and you get the ciphertext. So easy, right? And then how does the decryption happen? You again XOR the ciphertext with the key. Okay, and it turns out that when you substitute this equation, C is M XOR K, M XOR K XOR K, K XOR K, because the same cancel out, right? You get back the message here. So this is the most simplest crypto scheme you can ever think of, and it is sort of perfectly secure. Means the adversary will not be able to even know 1 bit of the message, right? But the problem with this message is like key should be as long as the message, and then suppose you want to download a huge file that runs into several gigabytes long, right? Then your key should also be gigabytes long. How do you share this offline? It's not going to work, right? So, and also there are some other problems also. So it turns out that this one-time pad offers security only, it can only encrypt one message using one key. If you use the same key to encrypt 2 or more messages, then there will be problems. Okay, it will start leaking about the plain text and the key itself. So that's going to be very bad, right? So remember, in crypto insecurity, you should remember Kerckhoff principle saying that the cipher method must not be secret, meaning that you know, you should assume that adversary knows the algorithms for key generation, encryption, and decryption, right? It may not know the key, okay, but you should never assume that the algorithm itself is hidden. That's a very bad way of doing it. There are many reasons for that. Right, so this is briefly the one-time pad. So to overcome the limitation of the one-time pad, namely you cannot afford to have a huge key, right? So you use what are called the pseudo-random generators. You take a short key and you stretch it to a long random-looking key, right? So that's all this stream cipher does. So once you have what is called the pseudo-random generator G, that I told you, right, extends a short seed S of length S to a long seed of length N, right? And then your key will only be a short bits. For example, for AES, it could be 128 bits for AES-28, and you can be able to encrypt gigabytes of data. So it's so easy to store and maintain the 128-bit key than a gigabyte long key, right? So once what you do here is to encrypt, you just do the XOR operation, but you encrypt the message by producing the pseudo-random key from the actual key and then XOR. Okay. So to decrypt, you need to generate a pseudo-random key because both the parties would share only K, not G of K, right? So it needs to be recomputed and then decrypted. Okay, right? Yeah, thanks. And then and some examples of the stream ciphers which are widely used. Trivium, for instance, right? And Grain, Rabbit, Salsa, they're all outdated. And there are like outdated, but they were popularly used like RC4, A5, A51, A52. So they're all like pretty popular stream ciphers. Okay, and Trivium is again a relatively recent stream cipher which is very well suited for hardware implementations. So there was something called eStream project to select a good stream cipher, and this was one of the candidates developed by Belgian researchers. Okay, so I won't get into details of this, but it can be very efficiently implemented in hardware. That's all you need to remember, and it's very fast. Huh? And it turns out that stream ciphers are not enough to provide even more advanced security, like security against CCA or CPA, chosen plain text or certain ciphertext attacks. So in a chosen plain text attack, adversary will be able to choose plain text of its own choice and then get the ciphertext. And in chosen ciphertext attack, it will, in addition to a CPA attack, it will also be able to choose ciphertext of its choice and get it decrypted. There are many practical scenarios where these adversary capabilities are indeed realistic. So to achieve security against attacks, you use what is called as, you just don't need a pseudo-random generator. You need what is called a pseudo-random function. And the name for that in practice is what is called a block cipher. Okay. So again, I won't get into the details of all these things. So this also happens like one-time pad, but the ciphertext will be twice the length. Okay. A n-bit message will get encrypted to a 2n-bit ciphertext. Every time you need to choose a random nonce, right? And then compute it similar to one-time pad, right? Good. So this is block cipher. So, but what you really need to know is some popular examples are DES, data encryption standard. In fact, the secure version or currently used version is called what is called a triple DES, and then AES, advanced encryption standard. Right, present is a lightweight block cipher, Clefia, Camellia, right, and then yeah, so you use it in but say for example, if you take the example of AES 128, it uses 128-bit key. Okay, but then the block size you can only encrypt 128 bits at a time to get a 128-bit ciphertext. But then what should you do to get along if you want to encrypt a message that is gigabyte long, right? Then you need to use it serially. So this is what's called a mode of operation, right? So one of the most popular mode of operation is what is called electronic code book. You just so here you just chop a long message into blocks of small size that your block cipher can encrypt, right? And then and then you just encrypt each bit individually. So, but the problem here is there's always the same block will get encrypted to the same ciphertext. And for example, you want to encrypt this penguin pixel by pixel, right? Then it would sort of reveal the figure, right? So each value you may not know the color, but the shape of the penguin would be apparent. So this way of doing it's very nice. So a more commonly used method is what is called the cipher blockchaining (CBC) mode. So here you use an initialization vector, but basically what you basically do is you take the output, when you are encrypting the second block, basically you chain it with the output of the previous block. Okay, so plain text is XORed with the output of the previous block, and then this continues. So decryption happens correspondingly. So the length of the ciphertext will be one block more. Okay, so for AES it will be 128 bits more than the actual message. Okay, in the CBC mode. So there are also other modes. I won't get into those details, called the counter mode. Okay, so that's all. Those details are not important, but you should know that block ciphers, though they work with only small blocks at a time, there's a way of chaining them to get a larger and more secure output, right? So AES is like pretty very important block cipher that was designed, that was accepted as the candidate. Randall was accepted as the advanced encryption standard. Again, this was developed by Belgian cryptographers, right? So it supports three key sizes: 128 bits, 192 bits, 256 bits, right? And then, yeah, why 256 bits? Possibly even to prevent against future attacks using possibly quantum computers. So yeah. So yes, again, sorry, I really don't have much time to get into a lot of details. I have about half an hour, so I still need to correct, talk about other things. So let me see, monitor if there are any questions. Okay, explain block cipher, stream cipher. Good. So in stream cipher, it's just it takes one string and generates a long pseudo random string. But block cipher, what it does is, for every key you get a function, means given input you get a random output, and this is true for every key. Okay, but here in a stream cipher you don't have a key, so okay, using one key you can only get one output, but in a block cipher, for one key, for different inputs you can get different outputs. So it's much like much more powerful, I would say. If we choose random nonce while encrypting, does that mean that block ciphers produce the non-deterministic output? Oh yeah. That's a very important one of the. I did not talk about it. So it's important that if your cipher has to be, just a minute, please. Sorry, there was some background noise. So make sure that, right. Yeah, good. So it's important that the same input gets encrypted to different ciphertexts. It has to be non-deterministic. Otherwise, there will be attacks called chosen plaintext attacks. So yeah, that's the problem. See, I saw that in the electronic code book mode, I showed that penguin, you get the penguin shape, right? So this is because the same pixel getting encrypted to the same ciphertext. Had it been deterministic, had it been non-deterministic, which should indeed be the case in practice, so then this would not have happened, right? So yeah, that's the thing. So explain RSA algorithm. I'll come to that. First symmetric key and then public key. Okay. So any questions so far? Any other questions? Okay, good. Then I'll continue. Okay. So far we were talking about encryption schemes that only provide confidentiality. It doesn't give authentication. The adversary will be able to modify the message and you'll be able to decrypt it, thinking that that's the original message. It doesn't assure integrity. Okay. So, oh, sorry, there's a question. Why we use key in bitwise? So that's the algorithm. That's the scheme. So one-time pad just XORs does bitwise XOR of the key and the message. That's how it's designed. Not every algorithm. In fact, symmetric ciphers, block ciphers are much more complicated than that. They do many other bit manipulations. But one-time pad is the simplest algorithm you can think of. Okay. So going to key authentication, you need to provide integrity for the message, and the symmetric key primitive for this to achieve authentication and data integrity is what's called a message authentication code. Okay. So what is a message authentication code? It has three algorithms: key generation, tag verification. So it produces a key to generate a tag and to verify the tag. So tag is like a signature, right? So tag generation, on input the message and the secret key, it produces a tag, and your verification algorithm will take the message, okay, and the tag, and input the secret key to verify it. So this is like signature, right? So when you sign a document, the document is public, right? So secrecy is not achieved, the authenticity is not necessarily achieved by encrypting it, correct? Because you need to read the document, okay, and then once you verify that it has come my signature, then you know it has come from me unmodified, right? So this is the idea. So something similar also happens in the symmetric key primitive called the message authentication code. So you input the secret key, you input the message, and it produces a tag. And now your recipient will use the same secret key, the message, and the tag to verify, to determine accept or reject. Means accept means the message is integrity is preserved, or reject if it is not preserved. Okay, that's as simple as this. So the public key analog of message authentication codes are what are called digital signatures. So if you have a block cipher or a pseudo random function, it's very easy to construct a MAC where you just take the pseudo random function with a key and then output, run the message and get the tag. It's as simple as that, but details are not important here. Okay, so you need one other primitive or hash functions that is widely used in symmetric key and public key crypto. So basically, what is a hash function? It just compresses a very long string to a short string, or arbitrary length string to a small string. It could be 256 bits, 512 bits, so on. And it's very easy to evaluate, but it also satisfies some important security properties like collision resistant hash function. Means the adversary will not be able to come up with two different input strings that hash to the same, so it won't be able to produce the collision. Okay, and there are other properties that's not important. SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-3 KECHAC is KECHAC was accepted as the SHA, the standard hash algorithm, the third version, SHA-3. It has a lot of other applications, blockchains, cryptocurrencies, many other things. Okay? So for instance, it's also used in antivirus software, right? So how do you know a file is infected? Particularly, so what it does is your antivirus scanner, it computes the hash of the infected file or the potential virus, and then it gets a short signature like a fingerprint for that virus, and then your database, some antivirus service provider will regularly have a list of fingerprints of the viruses. So you need not match the whole file. Even if you just match the fingerprints, right? It's the same virus, right? So if suppose, so let me give you an analogy. If suppose you go to some place, you want to say ration and you want to get some good, right? How do you know? I mean, and the ration shopkeeper would like to authenticate you that this is me. This is Srinivas Vivek, right? So of course, then she should do my measurements and then so many body parameters and then get convinced, right? But that's difficult to verify. What it's simply done is just take the fingerprint, right? So because that is unique to me. So similarly, here also, if you compute a hash of a file and if it is sufficiently secure, so then that's enough to know that this is the same file. No two different files. The adversary will not be able to create two different files that hash to the same value. Okay. So this is all symmetric key crypto and hash functions that's used in both symmetric key crypto and public key crypto. So let me now tell you about the public key crypto. So it's basically, so there is a, as explained, so there's a question from Guru Prasad. As explained, we can use AES algo to produce MAC, which provides both authentication and integrity. But in many cases, why secure implementation tends to use public key crypto? Public key crypto digital signature have authentic integrity. See, so the main advantage of using public key crypto is the key sharing is not a problem. But we cannot use the public key crypto, for the entire data, right? Because it's like 100 to 1,000 times lower than symmetric key crypto, right? So throughput is much lesser than symmetric key crypto. So the idea what is used is what is called hybrid encryption. So use a clever combination of public key crypto and symmetric crypto. So basically you use the slower public key crypto to exchange a shared key, which could be used for symmetric key encryption or symmetric key authentication, right? So once you do that, then you can use the symmetric key primitives for faster communication, and then for to achieve encryption and authentication. Okay, hope that answers your question. Good. So let me go to public key crypto. So key exchange scheme. So I told you, right, key exchanges is important on a public channel, right? So one of the first key exchange scheme that was ever known was due to Diffie-Hellman, with Diffie and Martin Hellman from 1976. So they changed the way public key, the way the crypto works, right? They gave a new direction rather. So problem is very simple: how to exchange a secret key over a public channel, okay, without meeting offline and then exchanging the key. So sorry, I have to introduce some bit of math, right? But then don't worry if you don't get the details very well. So you need what is called a group. So typically it's the multiplicative subgroup of a finite field. So basically you take the integers and you go modulo p. So when you say modulo p, it's basically division upon by prime p. Okay, so it's all set of reminders, and it turns out that all non-zero reminders will have some inverses. Okay, and they form a group. So what is a group? And don't worry about that. Okay, so it's basically a set that supports multiplication. Okay, then it has to be quite long for security reasons. So basically, this works on exponentiation. Alice chooses a secret alpha and computes G per alpha. Okay, and then Bob computes beta and computes G per beta. And some nice mathematical properties ensure that you are not able to compute alpha from G per alpha. So this is, if you can compute alpha, then you are extracting logarithms. This is not logarithms over real numbers, what you know, but over a discrete set, right? Called so this is called a discrete logarithm problem, and this is believed to be hard if you choose prime carefully. Okay, so again, details are not important, but what is intuitive to know is, given G, they exchange G per alpha beta from G per alpha. No, Alice receives G per beta and it knows alpha and it computes G per alpha beta. So there's a typo here. It's not XY, it's alpha beta. So basically, it uses the properties of exponentiation, right? So G power beta power alpha is G power alpha beta. Bob knows G power alpha, knows beta, it computes G power alpha beta. That's it. So it would rise G power alpha whole power beta will be G alpha beta. So G power alpha beta, right? XY written here, G power XY will be the common secret key, right? So they did not exchange alpha beta, but they arrived at a common secret key, and some mathematical properties ensure that it's secure, right? All these algorithm are important for exam, or we can skip them. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe finer details are not needed for the quiz, but I would urge you to think beyond just the quiz, right? We are all learning something, right? So okay, good. So this is key authentication. Good. Then how does public key encryption scheme work? It's similar to symmetric key encryption, right? So you have a key generation algorithm that produces keys. Now a pair of keys, public key, which is publicly available, is used for encryption, right? Suppose A wants to send a message to B, Now you need to encrypt with respect to A's public key, and of course, after A needs to send a message to B, you encrypt with respect to the public key of B. Only B will be able to use its secret decryption key to decrypt. Okay, so you cannot use encrypt with respect to B's public key and decrypt using A's. That would be simply insecure, right? Because I can encrypt anyone and use my secret to decrypt. It cannot happen, right? So on input an encryption key and the plain text, similarly, similar to symmetric encryption, it produces ciphertext. Okay, and then decryption is on input the ciphertext and the decryption key, you get back the message, right? So again, pictorially, sender wants to send, it's the same picture as I showed for symmetric encryption, but here the keys are different. You encrypt with respect to recipient's public key and you decrypt with respect to recipient's private key. Okay, so that's how public key encryption scheme works. And some desirable properties, just like symmetric encryption, is you encrypt with respect to public key and decrypt with respect to corresponding secret key. Again, not some other secret key. You should get back the message. And this should be efficient. If you know the keys, all these processes should run efficiently, and you should not be able to deduce even one bit of the message, given only the ciphertext. Okay, right? Yeah. So I told you earlier, right? Key generation encryption algorithm should be randomized, otherwise it will not be secure. So why key generation should be randomized? It's so bad to use all zeros key, right? So you want it to be sufficiently random so that no one will be able to guess that. So the first ever public key encryption scheme was invented by Adi Shameir, Ron Rivest, Adi Shameir, and Adelman. I don't know full name of Adelman. Okay. Then, so you see the younger version of them on the left and the older version of them on the right. So Shamir is in the middle, Ron Rivest is on the left, and Adelman is on the right. So interestingly, it turned out that a couple of years before, Clifford Cox had invented an equivalent public encryption scheme, but that was classified because he was working for the government communication headquarters for UK. So it's like a military secret agency, right? So it was classified, and then only 20 years later, then it was declassified. Yeah. Good. So that's about. Oh, I won't get into. Someone requested. Unfortunately, I really don't have time to explain you the details. So in lieu of this, I explained you the different element key exchange. So and you need a lot of modular arithmetic. For instance, the key will be like product of two large primes. Each can be 1024 bits long. Each will be 300 plus decimal digits. So your key will be public key will be 600 digits. So no way you're going to work these things using a paper and a pen. Okay. So yeah, sorry, I will not get into details, but that would be quite too technical for this short talk. Okay, so then you have these digital signature schemes, right, which are simply the public key analogs of the symmetric message authentication codes. They basically provide you message integrity and data authentication and entity authentication. So again, what is this digital signature algorithm? Similar to a message authentication code, it has three algorithms. You generate a key, okay, a signing key, secret, right? It should be secret, the signing key, because only you should be able to sign it, right? But anyone should be able to verify your signature. So the verification key is public. And what is the signing process? On input the signing key and the plain text, it produces this signature, right? And verification is you take the message, you take the signature, the verification key and the signature and the message, right? And you accept or reject. You accept if it is valid, else you reject. So in fact, it turns out that RSA, if you invert RSA, you will be able to get the digital signature. And this is true only for RSA. It's a common myth that you can reverse any encryption scheme to get the digital signature. That is absolutely incorrect, right? So some desired properties of digital encryption schemes are as follows. So you sign a message with respect to secret key and verify with a corresponding public key. You should get you should accept it, right? If you don't accept a valid signature and verification, then what's the point even using them, right? And they should be secure and they should be efficient. If you know the secret key and the verification key, public key, then they should run fast. They should not take a lot of time. And then the security requirement is no one should be able to produce forgery on the message. So namely, adversary can ask for many messages and the signatures. So just like you sign many documents, someone who is want to forge your signature will have many access to many messages and the corresponding signatures, right? But you should not be able to forge on a new message, right? The adversary should not be able to forge. So this is the main security property of a signature scheme. Okay. So pictorial, how does this work? So you have a sender, right? Then you have a signature creation algorithm. You input a private key, sender's private key, right? And you get this signature and you send out the signature on a public channel. The adversary can have access to it. Now the recipient will use the sender's public key. Okay. Remember, this is quite different compared to the encryption scheme, right? You decrypt with the recipient's private key, but here you verify. In the case of digital signatures, you verify using the verifier's public key, correct? And the recipient will get it, and will accept or reject. Okay. So these are all the main primitives. And then one last important thing is what is called a certificate authority or digital certificate, and it uses digital certificate. So what is a digital certificate? It basically certifies the ownership of a public key by the name subject of the authority, by the name subject of the certificate. See, if I say certificate says that this is the public key of some person, so this is the named subject of the certificate, Mario Rossi, right? So someone who is trusted by all, so here it's called a certificate authority, should tell that this belongs to Maria Rossi, right? Otherwise, the problem is then secure distribution of public keys is not possible, because then suppose A wants to send a message to B, and C, the adversary, will try to pretend that will give his key, his public key as B's public key. No, if the Alice A is not careful, then she will encrypt using C's public key, thinking that it used B's public key and only B can decrypt. But in reality, what would have happened is it would have used C's public key, so C will be able to decrypt it, right? So in order to prevent these things happening, a trusted party, okay, will be able to VeriSign is one of the popular certificate authorities, right? So they will be able to attest that, okay, tell this person has this public key. So this would solve a lot of problems. Okay? But you need a trusted authority here. Okay? So this actually, quickly covers what I wanted to talk about, the overview of crypto. So now I think we can open up the floor for like interesting questions and some discussions.
So thank you very much for this very, very informative and concise talk. I would say it was concise, yet it was detailed because you went into the concepts of different aspects of cryptography. And I'm sure all of us see all of these things at some point of time when using our mail, like VeriSign, digital signature and all, and even secure socket layer when we use the browser. But what is pertinent is like how much importance we assign to it and how we understand that it is operating in the internet to make us more secure. Having said that, we'll just look at the chat window. I'd request the participants to please post their questions. So we have a question from Guru Prasad BT. He says, public key encryption scheme does provide only confidentiality and integrity and digital signature to provide authentication and integrity. If we want to achieve confidentiality and integrity and authenticity, do we need to use a combination of algorithms?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yes. In fact, I should correct you. Public key encryption scheme only provides confidentiality. It doesn't provide integrity. Okay. So in fact, RSA, you can just like if you don't use RSA carefully, then you can just recover there is a trivial CC attack on that. Okay. So digital signatures provide authentication and integrity. Yes. So there is what is called a sign-encryption. You want to combine both encryption and signature. There is what is a combined primitive called sign-encryption. Or what you can do is you encrypt and do a signature on that. That also works. This is true for public key, also symmetric key.
I would like to ask you a question about if you can demystify the working and use of cryptocurrency, because we hear a lot of cryptocurrency frauds being perpetrated nowadays. And in general, the perception of people towards cryptocurrency does not seem to be a very favorable one. So can you please explain this part?
So let me confess, I myself is skeptical about that. So I should also confess I'm not an expert on it. See, but it works. The main point is about these cryptocurrencies is so this is like a decentralized thing. So here, for example, if we take the normal fiat currency that is in circulation, right? That's in vogue. Government actually takes the ownership of it, right? But here, anyone can come and then they will be able to mint coins if they have sufficient computing power, right? So this, yeah, but the problem is if anyone wants to contribute, then how do you know that then they can claim many false things, right? That I minted this many coins or did something, and then so you need what is called a secure ledger to record all these transactions, so there are no the double spending of the coins don't happen, right? So here you need what are called the blockchains, to ensure that ledger is public and authentic. Okay, so I would see, frankly, yeah, it is popular, right? There are many coins out there, and they are based now. There's a good amount of security analysis of these things. But again, I would say that only the time would answer all these things. Whether it's really secure, whether it will be deployed in real life. So there are, I mean, a lot of questions still need to be answered regarding this. But crypto is sort of safe, so it's not very bad. Security wise, it's not very bad. But we also have heard, see, yeah, crypto is okay, but again, you should use it properly, right? So there was a case where some cryptocurrency stock exchange, the owner died, and the keys, the main keys, they were gone with the person who was dead. If these management issues are solved, then probably one could deploy it.
Okay, sir. Because a lot of people were probably at one point of time skeptical about using digital payments because they felt that there are a lot of frauds being perpetuated there. So, so nowadays, it's possible that the same apprehensions might have spilled over into cryptocurrency also. So
yeah. But now people are getting educated about digital payments, and now they see, right, the way the UPI transactions are growing by volume. It's just absolutely phenomenal, right? So yeah, hopefully, but we need to see, things are not as easy, as not clear cut like digital payment systems. So I think a lot of other systemic issues concerning cryptocurrencies.
so we just wait a minute, maybe.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, sure. I think we have quite a bit of time, right?
I'd request all the participants to please put in your questions in the chat box. Please type it out in the chat box. A question on RSA, I think you already handled it, sir.
Oh, sorry?
There's a question on RSA.
Yeah.
Already addressed that.
Explain RSA, but I could get into details, but I don't know if that would be interesting for everyone.
There's one more from Shilpa Sadlapur. For VANET-based systems, to achieve data security, can we make use of blockchain-based methods?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. So people are saying yes, there are, it could potentially be used. Again, blockchains, they make things more decentralized. That's the main key, the main point, right? So your need for a trusted thing reduces, right? That's the main thing. So that could be one potential. But again, what is really concerning about these technologies is, I mean, do we really get the utility as is claimed? These things only the time will answer. See, no one is even questioning the need for encryption authentication, right? Everyone is convinced why you need symmetric encryption, decryption, yeah, and then the message authentication codes. So no one has any doubt why these things are needed. So blockchain, yes, it has a lot of promise, but again, is it ho- only the time should tell that will it find a wide scale deployment? And again, these are all one set of technologies, right? There could be alternate ways of doing it, not necessarily based on these things.
Sir, Guru Prasad says that they may need an in-depth session on LY homomorphic encryption, which is not much in use in so many areas.
Oh yeah, that would be very interesting. I would love to do that. Yes. Yeah, but again, it becomes, if I want to get into the details of it, it's a bit more mathematical, I would say. So that would take quite a while, get some background, talk about the background, and then talk about the schemes. But potential, applications. Oh, a lot of applications. I myself work on projects uh, on, say, for instance, how to use homomorphic encryption schemes in the context of ride-hailing services like Uber, Ola, for instance. So here, Uber, Ola gets to know, see the user's location and driver's location, right? Otherwise, how can it do the matching? But Uber is sitting on a lot of private data. Why should Uber know? So, but how can you encrypt these things and then Uber should not be able to see, but it will be able to still offer its services, right? So this is a classical case for privacy preserving ride hailing services. So on homomorphic encryption can have use on it. So another application project I'm working is like this an Aadhaar, like an open source equivalent of Aadhaar called MOSIP, Modular Open Source Identity Platform. So IIIT-B has configured these platforms, developed on platform. I mean, it's anchored this project. So what we have done is configure for many countries in Africa and Asia, like starting with Morocco, possibly Sri Lanka, Vietnam, I guess, right? So many other countries, a lot of countries. So what I'm looking into is, and these countries, they like tend to use this third-party servers like Amazon Cloud Services that offers this digital identity. But then they are sitting on, again, they are seeing a lot of private data, right? Biometric and demographic data. So now question is, how do you encrypt the data, but how do you do matching on the encrypted data? So the resulting answer should be encryption of accept or reject, right? So I mean, again, homomorphic, we try to use homomorphic encryption schemes to do all those things.
There is a question on DNA computing. So can you explain?
I'm not an expert on it, so I know only as much as you on DNA computing.
Sir, how would you say the role of cryptography is in initiatives like an ONDC that has just come up?
Sorry, what?
The Open Network for Digital Commerce. How much will cryptography play a role over there?
I'm sure. I mean, sorry, I'm not very familiar with this the open network thing, but I'm absolutely sure that crypto will uh, play a role, as we have seen before. But I don't know much about this thing. Sorry.
How does the encryption process actually take place?
It's an algorithm, right? So you have a device on a device that's encrypting. You give the plain text, you give the message, and it runs this algorithm. You get the ciphertext. So it's simple. And they have a lot of libraries for that. Can do freely available open source. So even SSL, TLS, their libraries, I think you can use it, right? So
Sir, are there any educational initiatives at your institution on cybersecurity area?
Of course, we offer these courses to our own students. We also have some certification programs tied with upgrade. Other than that, okay, okay. In general, we do some summer schools every summer on theoretical aspects of computer science. Last time it was on data privacy. That was pretty interesting. We got like one of the finest speakers in India. So these, I would say, are the main, uh, uh, I mean, this is, I would say that, yeah, these are the educational initiatives concerning cybersecurity at IIIT-B.
Because I like IIT Kanpur is now offering an e-master's specializing in cybersecurity.
Yeah,
So,
right. So we don't have a master's exclusively on cybersecurity. We have masters in computer science, but they can specialize in if they get some sufficient number of credits in cybersecurity, they can also get specialization in cybersecurity.
so sir, the next question is about since we're speaking about ride hailing and ride sharing the vehicles, but then there's concern about security of the autonomous vehicle. So where does cryptography play a role in that?
Oh, yeah. So, again, very beautiful question. So that's very, very important. Say, for instance, in for example, if you just like take the autonomous setting, right? So suppose there are cars approaching a junction, right? So you need to verify. They would be sending out signals, and every car should be able to authenticate every other car, right, approaching the junction, because some adversary could send some spam signals, and if you believe any signal coming out there, right, then we could be in deep trouble. So for this, it's very important they verify the signatures very carefully. So here, elliptical typically used, say, digital signature algorithm is elliptical signature algorithms, right? And then, but then the current throughput in software is just about 1,000 signatures per second. But some studies have estimated that you need to do 5,000 signatures per second. So that puts a lot of load on the processor, right, in the vehicles. So again, addressing these things is like a very, very important research area. And in general, it's like in the IoT setting, right? So you have a car, for instance, right? And you want to get it charged at a charging station. So now if the charging station has some malware somewhere, right? If it gets into car, the problem is not just that it gets into car. Of course, it can start controlling the car and it can create havoc. But the problem here is it can also get connected to the infrastructure that is connected to the car, right? You would link your phone, right? And you would, and your phone will have access, will contain, your work accounts, right? Email accounts, personal email accounts, right? And then that itself could be linked to Microsoft, for instance, right? So Microsoft, Google, or any other thing, right? So if there's a popular saying in the security, right, and crypto, a chain is only as strongest as its weakest link. So somewhere, if a virus or a malware or some other adversary can get into one weak point, right, then it can get connected to the whole infrastructure. So it becomes like very different. So this presents like really important technical challenges. So yeah. So and I think that's also a very exciting area for research currently.
Yeah, I just got a question on the private chat which says there are cryptocurrencies safe. So apparently, a lot of people don't seem to be convinced about the safety of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, I see safety again, so I would say that, no, I mean, I won't vote for that either, right? So it should stand the test of time, but it makes of like well-tested components. So I don't think it's the security itself that's the main problem. What is really problematic part is, I told you that the management issue, right? Acceptability. So people are still, they should accept, and then there are other challenges related to governance. If government does not have control, and then underworld dons are minting a lot of coins, then the itself would be country itself would be in great risk, right? So this is, I think, the governance aspect, and acceptability is the main issue, I would say.
Yeah, so I don't think we have any further questions.
Oh yeah, we
So
just have 4 minutes.
we've almost reached the end of our time as well, and I would, on behalf of CySecK, like to thank you, Professor Srinivas Vivek, for this very, very knowledgeable talk. And I'm sure all the participants who attended this are going home as excited as I am.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed talking about
To the
this. Thank you. Thank you
participants,
again for the invitation.
to the participants, I would request you to please wait for the certification that is going to run for 1 hour, 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. So please revise whatever notes you have made of the presentation and be ready to answer the questions that sir has prepared for you. Sir, thank you very much. We look forward to you giving us further webinars, topic-based webinars, which continue to be as both descriptive and concise, if I may say, as I said earlier. So, having said that, I'd like to thank you very much. If you would like to say something.
Oh yeah, I told you right. I really enjoyed this session, and then and also it's a great initiative by CyberSecK, right? Which played a very crucial role in revamping the cybersecurity syllabus for specialization for diploma, right? That itself is really a great initiative, and then I would also like to thank you for involving me too in that. I I enjoyed that, and I was quite satisfied that I could contribute something. So yeah, and there's a lot of need for qualified cybersecurity engineers. So because the number of jobs in demand, like it's just increasing, because we see that every other cybersecurity, even the number of cybersecurity incidents is just increasing like anything over time, right? As more and more people use these digital tools, there's a lot of demand for qualified are well-trained engineers, cybersecurity engineers. So I would, wish all the participants good luck, and then so hope to see you sometime.
So thank you, and we also hope to see you soon, delivering another webinar for CySecK. To all the participants, I request you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep a watch on the CySecK website as well as on the social media handles of CySecK for further such announcements of such exciting webinars. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We'll sign off.
Yes. Thanks then. Bye.